Imagine a nation born from revolution, a collection of 13 states victorious against the mightiest empire on earth. They had won their freedom, they had shed their blood for the right to govern themselves. Yet, within a few short years, this grand experiment in liberty was teetering on the brink of collapse. The initial plan for their union, the Articles of Confederation, was proving to be a rope of sand, too weak to hold the states together. The national government it created was a ghost, a shadow that could ask for money but could not demand it, a voice that could pass resolutions but could not enforce them. This was the United States in the 1780s, united in name only, fractured and squabbling in reality. Leaders who had stared down British muskets now watched in despair as their new nation unravelled. States quarrelled over borders, taxed each other's goods as if they were foreign enemies. The National Congress, impotent and broke, could only look on. The war had left a mountain of debt. With no power to tax, Congress could not pay its soldiers, could not pay its allies in Europe, could not pay the citizens who had lent it money. A sense of crisis gripped men like George Washington, Alexander Hamilton, James Madison. They understood a government without power is no government at all. The liberty they had fought for was threatened, not by a foreign king, but by their own disunity and weakness. The people felt the strain. Farmers who had fought returned home to crushing debt, facing foreclosure and debtor's prison. The economy was a mess, different states printing their own worthless paper money. Trade was choked by interstate tariffs and by the inability to secure favourable treaties with Britain and Spain. It became clear the Articles, born of fear of central power, had made a feeble national government. Something had to be done. This fear was the spark for a new convention and a new plan for America. The story of America's first government is a short but crucial one, a tale of high hopes followed by harsh realities. It began in the midst of war in 1777, when the Continental Congress approved the Articles of Confederation. This was the nation's first constitution. It was not officially ratified by all 13 states until 1781, but it guided the country through the final years of the Revolution. The Articles established a firm league of friendship among the states. The central government was a simple Congress where each state, regardless of its size or population, had a single vote. This structure reflected a deep suspicion of power that resembled the British monarchy. In 1783, the war officially ended, and the United States was recognized as independent. Yet victory brought immense challenges. The country was burdened with massive war debts, owed to France, to the Netherlands, and to its own citizens. Under the Articles, Congress had no power to levy taxes. It could only request funds. The states often ignored these requests, leaving the government bankrupt and undermining its credibility. Without national authority to regulate commerce, states waged trade wars. Britain held western forts, Spain closed the Mississippi, blows the national government was powerless to answer. The weakness of the Articles became dangerously apparent. In 1786, Shays' Rebellion sent a shockwave, convincing leaders to call a convention to revise the failing Articles. The central weakness of the Articles was simple but profound. No power to tax, leaving the treasury almost always empty. The United States could not pay debts, fund an army, or undertake national projects. No power to regulate interstate or foreign commerce bred chaos. No separate executive to lead. No national courts to adjudicate disputes. A supermajority to legislate and unanimity to amend ensured paralysis. In western Massachusetts, indebted farmers, many veterans, rose against taxes and foreclosures. They halted courts to save their land. The Confederation could neither pay soldiers nor raise an army. A privately backed state militia restored order. Washington, Hamilton, and Madison saw the Republic near anarchy. Annapolis faltered, but its delegates boldly summoned a broader convention in Philadelphia. The stated aim was to revise the Articles. Many came to replace them. The rebellion provided the final push they needed. When 55 delegates gathered in Philadelphia in 1787, they faced a monumental task. How would states be represented in the national legislature? Large states urged representation by population. The Virginia Plan proposed 2 houses, both proportional. Small states feared being overwhelmed. 1 house, 1 state, 1 vote. The convention neared collapse. Benjamin Franklin urged compromise. Roger Sherman and Oliver Ellsworth crafted a breakthrough, the Connecticut, or Great Compromise, a bicameral Congress. The House by population, elected by the people. The Senate with 2 per state, chosen by state legislatures. Laws would require approval in both houses. The impasse was broken, the convention saved. It was a turning point that shaped the nation. The compromises over slavery and commerce. Southern delegates sought to protect slavery, central to their economy. Should enslaved people, denied rights, be counted for representation? The North decried the hypocrisy. If counted for power, counted for taxes. The 3/5 compromise was struck, a dark stain on the new Constitution. It inflated Southern power in the House and Electoral College, embedding a contradiction that led toward civil war. The North wanted broad trade powers. The South feared export taxes and a ban on the slave trade. Congress would regulate interstate and foreign trade, but no taxes on exports. Congress was barred from banning the slave trade before 1808. A tragic concession, unity bought at the price of human freedom. Federal power versus the sovereignty of states. How to divide power between nation and states. Federalists urged a strong national government, able to tax, regulate commerce, raise armies. Weakness meant anarchy and foreign peril. Anti-federalists feared distant tyranny crushing liberty and states' rights. They trusted small republics close to the people. The Constitution created federalism, shared sovereignty with national supremacy in national matters. Specific powers were delegated to the Union, unspecified powers were reserved to the states. A dual system with distinct spheres of authority. The debate over the precise line has endured ever since. Section 8. A government of limits, separation of powers and checks and balances. Drawing on Montesquieu, the framers divided national power, 3 distinct branches to prevent tyranny. First, the legislative. Congress makes laws, a bicameral legislature, House and Senate. Second, the executive, led by a single president to enforce laws. Powers included command of forces, treaties, and appointments, without creating a king. Third, the judiciary, interpreting laws and the Constitution. Congress can pass a law, the President can veto. Congress can override with 2/3. The President appoints, the Senate confirms. Courts can strike down laws or executive acts. Overlapping powers force cooperation and restraint, making rash or tyrannical action difficult. The system is meant to slow things down and guard liberty. Section 9. A framework for liberty. How the Constitution secured freedom. Its goal, to secure the blessings of liberty for future generations. The solution was limited powers, enumerated, not unlimited authority. Powers not granted were retained by states or the people. Separation and checks protected freedom through deliberate governance. Debate, moderation and compromise were built in to frustrate power. Many argued more safeguards were needed. A declaration of rights. They feared for speech, press, religion, and fair trials. Federalists promised a Bill of Rights. In 1791, the first 10 amendments were ratified, protecting speech, press, religion, the right to bear arms, freedom from unreasonable searches, and the right to a speedy public trial. The Bill of Rights made liberty explicit, completing a framework for a government both strong and free.